At this time, we'll call to order the regular city council meeting for July 8th, 2019. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Lisa, let the roll call show everyone is present. And we'll move on to the approval of the minutes from June 24th, 2019.
I'll move the minutes.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the minutes. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion passes. We'll move on to the approval of the bills this evening. Councilmember Kurtzwell?
I had a question, Paul, regarding the revenue statement, and that's page 1 of 2. It's just the revenue report.
All right.
I'm going down to, and for you, you haven't been here a year yet, so if you just want to email all of us this week if you don't have the answer tonight. It deals with rents and royalties regarding the cable. It was budgeted for 140. It looks like it's down to about 125,000. I don't know if I'm interpreting that information correctly or not, but I would think that if you have royalties and rents, it's kind of a fixed cost. So that would have been a fixed item to estimate. So, you just find out what you're charging, and that's what it is. So I assume that's how it came to be 140 on the amended budget. So I don't understand the drop. That was the first one. And the second one deals with prior year's taxes. Of the amended budget was 4,500, and it's 10,000 on the year-to-date, 756. Does that mean that we had back taxes on properties?
Which line item is that? I'm sorry.
That's down, it's on the first page, it's down at the bottom, and it's called prior year's taxes. So my question was, what, I don't know, Lisa, maybe you would know, what comprises those prior year taxes? Is that like residential property taxes, or?
Yes, it's taxes that's been paid to the county that were delinquent, that the county then pays to us.
Okay, so that's a little hard to project because you don't know what's going on. Okay, thank you. Thank you very much.
I'll move the bills.
I'll second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Now, we normally have the bills divided up there. Did anyone else have anything for the attorney bills? Because I got the approval of the agenda next, so,
I just had one question for Tim.
okay.
Do you have a sense of how much time you ended up spending putting together the First Amendment stuff with, Second Amendment stuff with the schools?
Which agreement are you referring to?
Just the information gathering for Second Amendment and how it relates to the schools being able to impose themselves, but not the city.
Oh, the firearms regulation. It was review of the case, review of the statutes, mainly the case law, and drafting the letter. It was probably a couple hours.
Okay. I quickly kind of glanced through it and saw a few hours. I didn't think it warranted really digging through there, but I was just kind of curious. Thank you.
All right, we'll move on to the approval of tonight's agenda.
Oh, we got to pass those bills.
We did.
Well, it wasn't on the,
We
we had the approval of the bills. We normally have the approval of the attorney bills, but it wasn't listed on the agenda tonight.
Oh,
so.
I'm sorry. Okay.
I'll move the agenda. I'll support.
All in favor?
Discussion?
Oh, yes.
I would like to remove item number 1, RCOC participation agreement. I would request that item of the consent agenda be removed because I have questions regarding the agreement and its attachments.
I know there was a typo on that too. Commissioner Wypert had reached out to me about that, so.
Yes, it is with Board of Commissioners, not
Yeah.
necessarily Road Commissioner of Oakland County. I'd make a suggestion that we move that item to 4 and then move City Council closed session to item number 5, but you can decide that as a council.
That sounds good.
I have no problem with that.
So I'll move the agenda as amended.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion passes. Approval of the consent agenda this evening?
I move the approval.
Second.
Oh, you already did that, Jesus. I'm kind
All in
of losing it
favor?
here.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, gosh,
All opposed? Motion passes.
writing notes.
At this time, we will open the floor for public comment. Please remember to state your name and address, and you have a 2-minute time limit.
Hi, folks. Josie Kearns, 329 Lyon Boulevard. I'm with the Cultural Arts Commission. I'm just here to tell you that the fabulous NASA photographs are up around town. I think that's great that everybody's walking around and having fun with them. Along that line, on the actual anniversary of the 50th anniversary of the moonwalk, we're having a poetry reading called A Moonwalk at Third Monk Brewing, July 20th, the actual date of the day of the moonwalk, at 7 o'clock p.m. It's free and open to the public. Bring your moon poems, and that's what we'll be doing. And I hear Jeff is creating a moon brew for that exact evening. So that's what I'm here to promote. So I hope you guys can all come.
Thank you, Josie.
Thank you.
All right, we will close public comment and move on to the discussion of downtown. And Mr. Donahue.
All right, a few quick items. Good to see everybody. Just an update quick, in addition to the list you get from Paul each week. 18 of the 36 logo signs at Farmers Market have been redone as logos. That follows the DDA vote to change out all the mini text, as they were called, to visible logos. So we're halfway there. We should have all those up by the end of the week. A couple notes on the business survey. Because of the vacations of our work group, our next meeting is delayed 2 weeks. So we're going to send out information. We think we can make that up. But the steps during July are going to be revised 2 weeks. And so hopefully by the end through August, we can make up those 2 weeks. We'll send out a revised schedule. Let's see here. Oh, yes, exciting news. 3 of our downtown businesses made the, whoops, my time's up.
No, sorry, Bob.
Get the hook.
Gladly. No. 3 of our downtown businesses made the top 5 and Click on Detroit Best of Contest. And you can go online, click on Detroit Best of Contest. You can vote once an hour. That's legitimate, according to the rules. It's for Grand Trunk and Lemon Tree. They're in one category. They love the competition. They have no problem. They want you to vote for whatever your heart leads to for those 2, Grand Trunk and the Lemon Tree, and then venue in women's clothing category. So it's Grand Trunk, venue, and the Lemon Tree. You can vote now. I think there's another couple days left. And that's Click on Detroit Best of Contest. It's exciting. That is really all I have, unless you have any questions.
Councilmember Kennedy, go ahead.
Bob, just as a follow-on then to that, the Salem South Lyon District Library also made that list.
Sweet.
So they're also one that they can select and vote for.
Excellent.
I think it's under the services category.
Awesome. So we have four things in our town. Excellent.
Councilmember Kivel?
Just going by that sign, what an improvement. I mean, it really, you can actually see things, you recognize logos and all. So it's dramatically more important for people to drive by now, so that's good.
Great. Thank you.
Councilmember Richards and
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Bob, do I get the message correctly that 135 East Lake Street is going to be presenting their final site plans at the next Planning Commission
I
meeting?
believe they're on the next planning commission agenda.
That's correct.
Yes.
It's been a long time coming, but I'm glad to see that. Anyway, well, you go,
Exciting.
hope you're there. I probably won't be, but
We had very good, the pre-meetings that Paul has supported. We started where the city department heads come together before plans are submitted.
yeah.
So we had the planning chair and a member of the planning commission. And so very positive. I think there'll be positive results.
Okay, great.
I think it's good.
Councilmember Kurtzwell?
Why don't you tell everybody how you spent 2 Fridays ago, who you were with, what you were doing when I ran into you? I think that's a great story to tell, Bob.
Well, today, I think the story broke today throughout the South Lyon Herald as part of, I forget the name of the group,
Hometown Life?
Center?
Hometown News and Birmingham Eccentric. And they also cooperate with the Detroit Free Press. We had a news reporter out, the trash cans caught his eye. And so he was walking on the street. We met at the coffee shop, my day office. I had to beat Paul to the punch. And so we started a discussion on the trash cans, and then we went and talked about the flour containers, the new flour containers, which are made out of the recyclable material from Superb Fabricating. And then we talked about the railings at South Lyon Hotel, Heinen Engineering, Good Day Cafe. And so the reporter called his photographer, and I understand the story broke today, and it's through the whole newspaper chain, not just the South Lyon Herald. How we are the test town. I think the tagline is that we're the test town for these new projects, kind of like the first in the country. So I think if anybody is looking for that story, recycled products in downtown South Lyon, I think, is a part of the tagline.
Excellent.
So, yeah, we were excited
great.
to see that.
Councilmember Walton?
Thank you. Bob, I just wanted to thank you for getting back with me regarding possibly working together to get more crosswalks throughout the city and outside of the city downtown district.
Sure.
So just wanted to throw that out there and let everyone know that we are looking into it and seeing what we can do.
Sure. Thank you. Yes, I shared that with the city manager. We're good.
Thank you.
Councilmember Parisian?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Bob, good evening. I have 2 questions for you, 2 totally unrelated matters, but the first one for the logos on the signs. Are all of the signs up officially? I know you said that by the end of the week we should have all of them up, but what happened?
What they do is to reduce the cost, because the DDA took on the cost to reprint them. So they can do 18 at once. There's 36 total.
Okay.
And they can also get them larger a little bit if they print them all and then cut them after they're printed. And so half of them are up, and the final 18 should be up by the end of the week.
Okay, cool. I just wanted to clarify because I was working that
We
out
took
in my head.
the text signs off, the small print.
So these are simply logos. Okay. And my second question is, I don't know if you should be answering this or Paul or both. What happened with Paul Baker Park and the fountain issue? Did that get resolved? Can we just state it for the record?
I
or-
am
The repair of the fountain?
Yes.
Yes, that was repaired.
I'm sorry.
Yes, that was repaired.
Okay. Good to know. Just want to double check. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bob.
Thank you.
At this time, I'm going to hand it over to Chief Sovic.
Okay, I got 2 new officers to introduce, and it's been, I think, 15 years. This is the last time we actually brought somebody on board. So over here to my left, the first guy here is Jake Jacobs, and over here is Jonathan Schneeman.
Hi, Jake. Hi, Jonathan.
When I started years ago, 28 years ago, I had a test, I had an interview, I got sent to the shrink for a short period of time, and then I got sent out with one of our officers and said, here, we're going to train you for a week, and then here's the keys, go do it. So nowadays, with the liability that the officers and the police departments have and how everything is just looked at so under a microscope, the process to hire somebody in the field training has got to be just something that's top notch. So, and we believe that we have that process here in the city of South Lyon. For example, they took in applications, they submit these things, and by the time they're selected, I think we had 19 or 20 applications for the one process, and we had 13 or 14 interviews from there. The interview process consists of, it's an oral board or panel. We have our Sergeant Cedarlin, who is a field training officer and who does the background investigations. We have Sergeant Fault, who's in charge of the field training process and who is also a field training officer. We have Officer Walton, who is one of the field training officers. And Officer Walton and Sergeant Fault just recently updated our field training officer manual because it was outdated the last time we hired, like I said, years ago. And then we have our administrative assistant, Brianne Salyers, and she has a lot of contact with the phone, setting up interviews and everything like that. So she gets to have a really good idea of what kind of personality you're kind of dealing with. Plus, I don't know whether you want to call it women's intuition or what, I believe it. And so she's really good at kind of just picking out some things. So it's a pretty thorough 4-person oral board. So what they're looking for is not only somebody that can actually perform the duties of a police officer, but you got to have somebody in a 16-man department. You got to have someone that's going to fit in with the South Lyon family. You can get hired by a 100-man department. You can kind of get lost, but when you're in a department our size, we see everybody. We know everything. You get to see the interactions and the personality. So not only that is they have to fit in, but we're looking for someone long-term. City of South Lyon does not want to be a stepping stone to, let's give some guy some training and then put him on his own and then just to be hired by other departments. So those three things are very important when you're looking for somebody in this oral board process. It takes about an hour. We're asking them questions, situations, tell me about this, how would you react in this situation? So it's very good to get some feel for these guys. So both of these individuals were the unanimous choice in both oral board panels, number one by all 4 of our people. That's a really good thing to see. We want someone that's going to not only fit in, but we want someone that wants to be here at South Lyon long term, as well as having these guys. So these guys are fantastic. So once you get hired, the field training process begins. It's a 3.5-month process, and what you do is the first month they ride with somebody, and they ride with 3 different people along the process. So they get a different feel for the different personalities that are there. The first month you're with someone, they probably do about 10% of the work, and the officer is instructing about 90%. So month 2, it's going with the 50-50, so you kind of share the responsibility. And then the third month, these guys are doing like 90% of the work, and the field training officer is doing about 10% of the work. But by this time, after 3 months, you get a really good feel of how things are going to go. Now, you can extend the training if you need to. These guys didn't need any training. At the end of that 3 months, you have what's called a shadow period, where you have somebody riding with you. Their field training, usually Officer Walton, will ride with them. They were in the car, but they're not there. If they come across a situation, whether they're doing something proactive, they go to a dispatch call, they can't ask them anything. They basically are just there just to ensure that they or the public does not get hurt in any given situations. You get some, just in case something happens. And then what they're doing is every single day that they're with a field training officer, we have to fill out what's called a daily observation report, a DOR. It talks about, and we have to document everything, the policies you went over, how you handle the situation, public contact. There are so many categories to these daily observation reports. And so at the end of 3 months, we basically just kind of say, okay, guys, here you go. You're kind of, you are on your own. So when these guys get to a call, they're there. They're riding solo. We don't have the resources to ride 2 people in a car all the time because of our manpower. So Jake came from us from Walled Lake Police Department, and he was there for 4 years. He was 2-time Officer of the Year in Walled Lake. He comes with some great training, some experience, Alice training, you name it. We were very fortunate to have him. Jonathan here just came to us from the Wayne County Regional Academy in 2018. Just kind of blew through the oral board process, doing great things about him. So it's an honor for me to be I sort of responsible for hiring these 2 guys because these are my 2 first hires. So these guys are great. I think they're going to be with us a long time, and I'm just so proud to have these guys want to work with us and have them on our police department. So I'm very proud of these guys.
To have you.
Nice to meet you. Welcome to the team. Congratulations. Congratulations, Jonathan. Welcome to the team.
Congratulations, welcome.
Good to see you.
Congratulations, welcome.
Congratulations. That's great.
Okay, and for the recognition for 2 more of our officers, I'll have Lieutenant Bakke come up and make the presentation.
Good evening. So during our transition process, we set up a committee for awards. And what we have done is we've had three sergeants that will give out certificates that officers go above and beyond call of duty or do something very well, or they present themselves professionally or in a professional manner. The sergeants are Sergeant Cedarland, Sergeant Faught, and Sergeant Whitrock. In this particular case, and what we're going to be awarding them today is a certificate of merit through the department on their actions on May 20th of this year. And I'm going to read right here because I want to make sure I get it right. So, on May 20th at approximately 9:44 p.m., Sergeant Mike Whitrock and Officer Ron Barber were dispatched to the South Lyon Woods Manufactured Home Park in response to a suicidal subject in the 200 block of Longfellow Drive. The subject admitted to drinking alcohol and smoking marijuana all day leading up to the incident. The subject advised dispatch that he wanted to attack a police officer with a knife and commit suicide by cop. The armed subject indicated that he was not willing to come out of his residence and that he would attack anyone that got near to him. He was determined to wait inside his residence until he was shot. Officers from neighboring jurisdictions, which would be Green Oak Township and Lyon Township, Oakland County, set up a perimeter around the location and evacuated the surrounding residents. Sergeant Whitrock had South Lyon Fire and EMS staged near the front of the mobile home community. Officer Barber began a dialogue with the subject through the rear window and eventually talked him out of the residence and onto the porch. He exited the trailer waving a large knife. Several officers, while he had him at gunpoint, ordered him, the subject, to drop his weapon. The subject's only response was, "Shoot me." During the commotion, Sergeant Whitrock was able to make his way to the subject's location without being detected. He deployed his taser and disarmed the subject. He was physically subdued without further incident and transported to the hospital for a mental health evaluation. Sergeant Whitrock and Officer Barber's actions and regard to safety of everyone involved undoubtedly led to the positive outcome where no one was seriously hurt, and the subject was able to receive the medical attention that he needed. And for that, the award is a department citation which reads in part, the outstanding performance of a difficult task involving personal risk to the officer's safety when, because of the officer's actions, a serious crime is prevented or that a perpetrator is apprehended. So with that, I would like to present them with the department citation. Congratulations.
Just to follow up that, I spoke with the individual who was the residents responded to today, and he was very thankful and grateful at the way that we handled the situation. He is getting the help that he needed at the time, but he was very thankful of the way that we handled the situation and that no one else got hurt. So, just to follow up for that. So, these guys did an outstanding job. I'm proud of them.
Chief, just a second. I believe Councilmember Walton had something for you.
Chief, I just want to make sure that our guys on the team are also getting any assistance they need if they have any issues, they have someone to talk to.
Absolutely, that's the first thing we do. We have the employee assistance program if we need to, and there's always a debrief like that over the situation. Yes, we appreciate that. Thank you.
Paul, I have a note here. I'm supposed to come to you after that.
Yes, it's great. I'd like to thank all of you for attending the safest city council meeting we will ever have. I'd like to follow up that tonight with a discussion regarding our hiring of a new head of DPW in water and sewer. After an exhaustive search, the city of South Lyon done several interviews, had some really good candidates, and the city has hired Doug Varney to be our new director of water and sewer and DPW. Doug, if you could at least stand. I don't know if you have a word to say at the podium, but Doug comes from City of Warren as well as City of Mason with excellent credentials and certifications that our city needs. He's been on board for just over a week now. Everybody's excited to have him part of our team. We have a lot of planned projects and programs to do within this next year. He's already gotten his feet wet. He was introduced and came around to our plan a couple times even before he even started work. and a really enthusiastic attitude, and we're looking forward to many years of service with the city of South Lyon.
That's excellent.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you,
Thank you.
welcome,
Glad to
Welcome
meet you.
aboard.
welcome to the team. All right, we'll move on to new business this evening. Number one, the Pumpkin Fest Parade.
Hi. Kathy Swan, President of Pumpkin Fest, 44 Woodland Place. Thought there would be someone else here with me, but obviously not. So I guess the festival isn't on the agenda, but the festival is approved, right?
No,
Pumpkin.
They each received a packet. It didn't make it into the council packet, but we do, I think that the city council was supplied with the block party application, all the
Yes.
credentials
Yes.
needed for that.
Sorry.
It's not on the
Here,
actual written agenda,
Right.
but, so any questions about the festival? Same old, same old. Nothing's changed.
What year is that, Kathy?
This is going to be our 35th year. So it's our anniversary. It's going to be Pumpkins on Parade, and it's all about pumpkins this year.
Love that. Does anyone have anything for Kathy? Councilmember Parisian?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a thank you and to all your volunteers for all the hard work you put in year-round to make this happen. This is such an exciting time of the year, and we get people from all over just to come visit.
I
for this.
appreciate you saying that because people don't realize this is a 12-month. We take 1 month off and we start the process again, so it's not something that is taken lightly.
No, we appreciate it. Thank you.
Councilmember Walton, did you have something?
Yes, I do. I'm very excited. Thank you for mentioning that it's the 35th year, especially with the last meeting. Councilmember Kurtzwell brought up that it was in that flyer that was sent out all about Michigan Festival. So it's really exciting that that went out to so many homes, and now we have a big celebration. So it should be wonderful.
Yes. We're excited.
Councilmember Kurtzwell?
Kathy, a year ago or 2 years ago, I had the incredible pleasure of sitting with you at a table at a chamber event, and you were being awarded an award for all your volunteer work. Sometimes when people get awards, they drift off, and I just want to say that I don't know how you do it. You're back again, and when we were at that table, I believe you had your daughter with you. And
One of my daughters.
yeah, one of your daughters with you, and she even said, you know what, Mom even has me volunteering, and I love it. And I said, oh my gosh, this is a family affair with Kathy Swan. So Kathy, I just want to thank you for the positive role model you are for all of us in the community, but more importantly, what a positive role model you are for your own family and your daughter.
Thank you.
So what an incredible woman. So
Thank you.
I'd like to make the motion to approve the Pumpkin Fest Parade and the block party for September 27th, 29th, 2019.
I'm also here for the run, too.
I'll support.
So we have a motion and a second. On the first one, we're going to do the second one
Okay.
next.
Before you,
Yep.
then let me
Go
make a
ahead.
point. The reason I came up here instead of just doing the consent agenda is I wanted to talk about a minute about the end of the parade. We are changing the end of the parade. Last year, we made a new change, and we moved from the Lyon subdivision, we moved to Centennial as the staging area for the parade. Now we're taking it a step further, and we're changing the end route of the parade. And I'm going to pass this out, because this is a better picture for all of you guys than the one that's in the packet.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Lisa, do you need one? I'm trying to walk fast, but my knee is.
That's okay.
Yeah, no
So
rush.
what we're doing is we're eliminating, we're saving costs, mostly for the city, by not taking the parade across 10 Mile. It used to turn left on Liberty, which it still is, then it would go up to Warren and then make a right and then go across 10 Mile over to Bartlett School. By stopping the parade on this side of 10 Mile, we're saving the city resources, the police department, the fire department, and all that. With the help of Michigan Seamless, They're allowing us to use their parking lot that morning, and they're going to stop the trucks from coming in, and we're going to be able to route the parade. People can go there, they can go to McCaddy, they can come here to the City Hall parking lot. We're hoping all floats continue on through the sub. So for disbursement, everybody's got a different way to go. But ultimately, the reason we're doing this is to save the city money.
Excellent.
Excellent.
And us heartache.
So we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Yeah, I wanted to say something.
Councilman Richards, go ahead.
It's wonderful to see that route opened up again years ago, and most people can't remember this, but we used to have what they called homecoming parades in this town, and they followed the part of that route in front of the tube mill, but from the other direction, from the south to the north. Okay, and it's good to see that that option exercised again and open that up for our community.
The only concern we have is that we want to get the message out there that this is not going to derail what's happening in the festival. People can still get to the festival. People can still park their cars in the normal areas and still walk through the festival without missing anything. So this is going to be a good thing.
Excellent.
Thank you, Kathy. Anyone else with anything for Kathy? Okay, so we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion passes. And while we have you up there,
Yep.
we'll move on to new business number 2, Pumpkin Fest Run.
Nothing's changed.
Okay.
I'll make the motion.
It's basically what happens, it's a run that kind of uses the parade route, and it starts 5 minutes earlier.
Right. Yep.
All the police and fire, everything's in place, and most of the run is on the bike path, so it's just utilize the resources that are there for Pumpkin Fest, and starts 5 minutes before the parade starts.
And at the same thing, everything stays on this side of 10 Mile. Everything's between 9 and 10, so everything's contained, just like the parade is.
So,
Road closure has already taken place, right? 9 Mile?
No, it's not even coming, no, it's just coming north on Pontiac Trail from the, next to Big B Coffee,
Yeah.
out of
Oh, is that
Millennium,
right? Oh.
and
They
heading
come
north.
out the side parking lot by Big
Okay.
B's. They're not even part of the parade staging area.
Okay. I thought, didn't they stage there before, at where the parade was?
They've always been in the same location
Okay.
by Big B's. But the parade is all in Centennial parking
That's
lot.
what I thought. Okay. Thank you.
So Councilmember Walton was able to sneak a motion in there. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 All opposed? Motion passes. Thank you, Kathy.
Thank you.
Thank you.
See you tomorrow night.
Evening.
Good evening, Chief.
Hi, Chief.
New business number 3, the purchase of 3 sets of firefighting turnout gear.
So this is our annual return, asking for some money to purchase 3 sets of gear and also to bypass the bid process. Why we always ask for that is we found with this new vendor with Global Gear that is what we want, it's what they have, and because of regional selling, it's the only person we can get it from. Previously, we used to buy Janesville, and then we purchased Lyon, and we had fitting issues and customer service issues. We formed a committee, and they all agreed that this was the best gear, especially for the females. This was their favorite. It fit the best. So that's why we're year 3, asking for the same gear. We always try to include one female in the measuring, and she'll be one of them this year. We have a new female firefighter that we're going to measure. There's no advantage for us to do a 3 bid. Yes?
This was originally scheduled for the year 20, so.
Well, so the way previous Kennedy built it was since our gear sold, we have such old gear, and you can only wear it for 10 years. Every year we try to build in so we don't hit the city with a huge bill. It's 3 sets every year.
Mm-hmm.
Next year should be the last time that I come in front for a while. It should get us down to a reasonable stock.
That was my
Problem we
question.
have,
You still
obviously,
intend to do it next year?
One more time.
To fulfill everything?
Yep.
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
Councilmember Parisian, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Tim, are there any legal ramifications for bypassing the quote requirement?
As long as the council establishes the basis on which to waive the bidding requirement, it should be fine.
Thank you.
Councilmember Kurtzwell, go ahead.
I first wanted to say in the motion, this has been one of my pet peeves, is that the city has not documented on the record the basis for why the competitive bid was being waived. And I want to applaud you and thank you for, number one, articulating on the record the reason why, and then number two, putting it in a separate motion. I think whoever put this together did a nice job.
Chief Kennedy.
Okay.
Copy and paste.
Okay, well, thank you, because I think that's real important, is that the motion be separate with respect to waiving that competitive bid.
This is the only item I do it on.
It doesn't matter if you
Right.
do it, I mean, I'm just letting you know, it's very, very important, because the two areas where municipalities get into problems with contracts is conflict of interest and competitive bidding. So you can erase those issues on the competitive bidding side when you give the reason that's in compliance with the ordinance. The reason why you want us to waive the bid. You just stated those facts. So anytime you come before me, any department head that comes here, if you want that competitive bid waived, you have to be able to articulate, because I can't read your mind. I don't understand everything. You have to be able to articulate what those reasonable facts are that you are relying on to waive that bid. So on the first motion, yes, that's a nice job.
Thank you.
Oh,
Councilmember Kennedy.
I'll make the motion to waive Section 2-224 of the City of South Lyon Code of Ordinances, approval for purchases or contracts over $2,000, competitive bidding for purchases and contracts over $5,000, because no advantage to the city would result from competitive bidding.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Councilmember Kennedy, supported by Councilmember Parisian. Any further discussion on this? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion passes. Councilmember Kennedy, go ahead.
I'd also like to make the motion to award the purchase of 3 sets of firefighting turnout gear to First Due Fire Supply for $6,891.18.
Support.
We have a motion by Councilmember Kennedy, supported by Councilmember Walton.
Discussion?
Yes.
I had a question on this item, and I think it kind of alludes to what the Councilman Kivel asked. Is this coming out of the 1920 budget?
Yep.
2020.
2020.
Yep.
1920, yes.
Okay.
Correct. So you approved it under this amount. We get the bid first. This is the exact amount that I brought to you for budget. We approved in May or June.
Okay, because it would help if you put in here what the line item is, where in the budget this is fitting.
Yep.
So what I did is I went to the budget, and it looks like it's fitting in item number 721 is the line item. When I go to the description, please let me know if I have it wrong.
I think it should be 977.
Is it
Equipment.
97? $977 is EMS supplies, automated external defibrillator. That's equipment purchases.
Okay. Then you're probably right.
Well, no, I mean,
It is 721. It is uniforms where it's
It's on
identified a
uniforms.
full set of gear,
Okay.
2200
Thank you. I'm
times three.
sorry.
okay. So I looked at the description, and that's why these descriptions are so important when the department heads put these descriptions in with the budget, because it gives me an opportunity to go in, because I'm a budget nerd.
Sure.
And here in the budget, actually, you're talking about your turnout gear, which is what this motion is for turnout gear. But the turnout gear appears to include, it says, this includes coat, pants, helmet, gloves, hoods, and boots. The total cost for the three was $17,340. You're only asking for $6,891.
For just coat and pants. And then that's what First Due is bidding, just the coats and pants. We use a different vendor because they don't sell boots. They sell just the bunker pants and the coat. And then we'll do another purchase for the helmets, the gloves, the hoods, suspenders.
What I would have done on the motion then is be specific.
Okay.
You want the $6,891 for
the bunker.
Okay.
Okay.
Because here, the description, you're now telling me that you're going to be coming back and asking for, so maybe on your next motion, you clarify it.
Okay.
Because here, I read it and I said, I don't get it. He's getting 17,000, but he's only asking for 6.
A lot
68.
of that too we use for reserve if something breaks. Bunker, gloves get holes burned into them. We'll make emergency purchase. We don't always use all that money. I don't think we did last year either. I think we spent like 15.5. We don't always spend it. This is the big item that we always plan for. Like I said, we'll do one more time next year. So next year I'll just try to break it down into one more detailed motion. I apologize for that.
Well, no, I mean, this budgeting process is everybody learns. I learn. I mean, I have to call Plant Moran on questions. I have to call City Hall on questions. I don't have all the answers. So, but it just helps clarify things when you have people that are trying to track the budget a little bit. Thank you very much for your response. Thank you.
Councilmember Kivel, go ahead.
I think it's a pertinent point to find out what line item this might be assigned to, but we don't need to count paper clips. You take care of getting your equipment.
This is the big item. This is the tricky one because we don't ask for a bid. And then we usually, we'll do some small item purchases throughout the year. If we buy another helmet. That'll be $200. Or right now we're buying some boots. Some people are complaining about their boots don't fit, so I've been trying.
Right, but that's not on here. The narrative that you gave us during the budget workshops, you explained all of that. You explained the new vendor, the whole 9 yards. So to have to reiterate all that just because of one person doesn't make sense.
Anyone else with anything for Chief Vogel? Great. We got a motion by Councilmember Kennedy, supported by Councilmember Walton, to award the purchase of 3 sets of firefighting turnout gear to First Due Fire Supply for $6,891.18. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Thanks, Chief.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
So we have a little bit of an adjustment here on the agenda.
Now we go back to.
We will be on to new business number 4, but it will be in regards to the Oakland County Board of Commissioners participation agreement with the city.
Mr. Mayor, we have a participation agreement from the Oakland County Board of Commissioners to receive funds associated with a local pilot program. Tonight, we need to approve the agreement in order to receive the funds. The courses of action tonight are approve or not approve the participation agreement. The city is scheduled to receive $15,012 as part of this program, and we do have matching funds associated with that. There was a question on this that was pulled from consent agenda, and be happy to try to answer any questions that you may have. I know the city attorneys reviewed this agreement as well.
Councilmember Kurtzwell, go ahead.
I am on the first page of the agreement, 1, 2, 3, the fourth whereas. And in that fourth whereas, it talks about that the community has to submit a report to the board identifying the effect of the project on business in the community at the completion of the project. Who does that? Does Bob do it?
That would be myself. I would be doing that.
You do that? Okay. What is the timeline for completion on this? When do you, if this will get approved tonight, hopefully, and then what happens after that?
We'll complete this project as part of the 2019-20 budget. We've identified some streets within the downtown area, majority on Liberty Street, in order to repair some of the roads that we have identified already within our local street budget. We have money identified within the professional services as well as repairs and maintenance, and now we get additional funds in order to do additional work. And it didn't end up costing us anything to do it because we were already doing some of this work as part of our budget.
So when do you expect these roads to be repaired? I mean,
before the end of the 2019-20 budget. Could be as early as this fall or as far as next spring. That'll get done before the by the June 30 deadline of this year's budget.
okay. Then I looked at the project guidelines, and I just wanted to bring it to everyone's attention that this particular grant may be audited, and because it does say that it has an audit requirement, And it does say very clearly, it shall not be utilized for other purposes such as administrative expense of personnel, consultants, and other purposes. So it looks like this grant money can only be used for the actual asphalt itself and the labor used on it. Every other cost that may exceed 15,000, it might, will be picked up by the city.
Yes, the total project will probably be in excess of almost $30,000, but some of that will be borne by us because we have to provide a matching dollar amount, which we already had in the 2019-20 budget. But this will be only specifically for that. It won't be used for any administrative costs of any staff members at all.
My question is when the city goes to match that money, are we required to match, we're required to match that 15,000?
Yes, our requirement is $15,988.
So any other service or fee, like HRC or something like that, that could push that cost even higher than 30, because you have to use 30,000 for asphalt,
Concrete,
and,
whatever
and
may
concrete or
repairs.
whatever
That's
you
correct.
use. Okay, so
That's correct.
okay, I want to do that. And then this guideline says that the recipient shall be responsible for providing an outline of the benefits prior to approval. So have we already communicated with
Yes,
them?
we did, and that was part of getting the approval of the dollars to get this $15,000 a grant. That I had to submit an application to the Oakland County Board of Commissioners, and they approved that based upon what I submitted.
Okay, and then the last thing is, when I was reading this, it looks like every community has been allotted X amount of money. You know, Novi gets a lot of money, 300,000 or something like that in here. And it states in here that in the event an eligible local unit chooses not to participate, any previously undistributed allocation may be reallocated. So
Yes.
are we?
We will find
by
those dollars out at a later date. I've
That's what
already
I was gonna find
discussed
out.
it with the commissioner regarding that. We'll find out what communities did not apply, what funds are available, and what funds percentage-wise the city of South Lyon could potentially get. In the past, our funds, we never got these funds, so this is the first year that we've actually received these funds based upon our request.
So there's a possibility, I mean, do you have projects ready to go?
Yes.
That if there is an additional reallocation of funds, we could say we're shovel-ready?
Yes, because what we'll do is we'll be bidding this out, but the dollar amount that we'll be getting will be extremely minor based upon the allocation that we're getting out of the total. From my understanding, the larger communities did submit, did request funds, and they were approved. The dollar amount may be very minor that would be distributed across the board.
Now, can this money be used to fix the bricks that are downtown?
No, it's only for specific road or infrastructure, so it's
So it has to
local
be
streets.
mobility, mobile, okay. Can't use it for non-mobile, okay. All right, thank you. Thank you for answering those questions. I appreciate it.
Councilmember Kennedy, go ahead.
Just as a little bit of additional information, the way that came about is the Oakland County Board of Commissioners had about $1 million, and they said, hey, we already provide funding to the county roads. The commissioners looked at that and said, can we get money for the local roads across the county? So they looked at the number of municipalities across the county, totaled those up, looked at the population in each of those cities, and then made the decision, did the math, that so many dollars would be allocated to each city based on the population. And again, the money was to be allocated strictly for local streets, repairs on those streets. We had matched the money, our money to that, and that is all that it could be applied to. And I want to compliment Paul, who worked on this together with our Oakland County Commissioner Phil Weipert to complete the application. I think Phil actually made the office aware of it at the beginning. Paul and Phil worked together on the application to get it through, to get us the $15,000. So I just want to say thanks to both you and Phil, Paul.
Thanks.
Councilmember Kivel, go ahead.
Well, just a quick one. This is the inaugural of this program, too, so that's really nice that it's working out well for us.
Councilmember Richards, go ahead.
Paul, this is the first kickoff on this type of matching fund amount. I'm assuming that HRC has already reviewed this project, since it's a matching deal, okay, in advance of the grant being awarded based on our population. They are doing other work community-wide, of course, on other roads, as we all know. Is this part of their evaluation, or is this a separate evaluation by HRC on this particular project?
HRC had a very, very limited role in this. It was just discussions we had with them about using funds for making repairs on local streets. We were identifying, and I went through and identified and looked for the streets that potentially we could use that would improve commerce, that would improve mobility, that would improve our particular downtown. And I did not want to use, as far as city funds, to pay for our engineers to try to discover what are the best streets for that.
Okay, one more. Now, assuming this is, we're talking about the west end of Liberty Street, all the way down to Hagedorn on the far south end. Are there going to be installation of curbing and repair of some of the sidewalks that are really up and down?
It is really just the road, and the majority of it is actually on West Liberty, but immediately adjacent to Pontiac Trail. If you go in that particular area, you can see a lot of uneven concrete, asphalt in that particular area that is extremely expensive to repair. When you have ability or have the availability of potential dollars like this that came through with this particular program, it's the best time to get it done.
Are they going to do it with concrete or tear it up with and put asphalt in?
We'd like to repair with concrete what's existing in that area.
Oh, it's terribly won't be.
It may limit the total amount that we do, but we'll find out when we get for bid and what's been identified. You can see some markings on the street that we've done.
Yeah, yeah. Okay.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilmember Kennedy, go ahead.
I'd like to make the motion to approve participation, the participation agreement for the local pilot program.
I'll support.
So we have a motion from Councilmember Kennedy, supported by Councilmember Kibble, to approve participation agreement for the local pilot program. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. We will move on to new business number 5 this evening. City Council closed sessions.
Mr. Mayor, I request that this item be placed on the agenda to discuss closed sessions. We had a meeting a couple weeks ago where council chose not to go into closed session, and I thought it was an important opportunity where we would go over what are some of the parameters as well as discuss when city council may be going into closed session. And not only just for council discussion, but for the public to listen as well, to understand why some of these things actually take place. And these are identified through the Open Meetings Act. And from the discussion that occurred last week, I thought it was important that we went over these, and I'll kind of list some of them regarding when council may decide to go within a closed session. One is to consider dismissal, suspension, discipline of or to hear complaints or charges brought against, or consider a periodic personnel evaluation of a public officer or if an employee requests by the named person, and that does require a majority vote. For strategy, negotiations connected with negotiation of a collective bargaining agreement, if requested by either negotiating party, which is a majority of vote. To consider purchase of lease or real property to the time option to purchase or lease that property is obtained, and that is 2/3 roll call vote. Consult with an attorney regarding trial or settlement strategy in conjunction with specific pending litigation, but only if an open meeting would have detrimental effect financial on municipalities litigating or settlement position, and that requires also a 2/3 vote. Next is to review and consider contents of application for employment or appointment to public office. If candidate requests the application remain confidential, and that is 2/3 roll call vote, and interviews by a public body for employment or appointment to public office must be held in an open meeting. The Act does not contain an exception to this requirement for the selection of a college or university president, which doesn't apply to us. And the last item is to consider material exempt from discussion or disclosure or state by federal statute, and that does require a 2/3 vote. Now, I brought this up because I think it was important to talk about this, and it talks amongst everyone else, because the public may not know why we may be going into closed session or what the purpose actually is for. The item that was brought before council a couple weeks ago had to do with potential, or regarding litigation that we had with the city. And I think it's important to discuss this because if something like this does come up again within the future, and it is council's right to decide to go into closed session or not go into closed session, there may be a need for the city manager to meet with the attorney and to set the strategy and what we move forth with. Now, if any settlement does occur or does come back before council, and just so the public knows as well as, and just for everybody maybe listening at home, when discussion does take place within a closed session, it does not mean that a decision is made within closed session. Council has to come out of closed session and actually make a decision. There are times that when the attorney or there is discussion that takes place regarding contract negotiations or an item that was deemed to go into closed session is discussed, but if no decision is made, that means when they come out of closed session, the closed session and the city council potentially meeting could end because no decision would come about. But if ever a decision is made, it is always brought back into open session, and a member does make a motion there, whether it gets approved or doesn't get approved. I just want to make sure that everyone does understand that if something like this does occur in the future, an attorney or someone does come back and ask that, we want to bring something into closed session, and if the council does in fact vote no, and it does not go into closed session, at which you are able to do and vote yea or vote nay, then if we do not go into closed session, that myself as the city manager, I will be working with staff or working with the attorney to develop what the direction are that we may be going regarding a particular litigation or regarding a particular item that did not go before council within that closed session. It may come back at a later date, but I just want to make sure that all of you are aware that those decisions may be taking place behind the scenes, because specifically if we do have an issue that does have to do with some sort of litigation against the city, we certainly do not want anybody in the public or specifically the person that we may have a lawsuit against us or we against them want to know what our potential strategy is in moving forward. Just as we would never discuss what our opening and closing arguments are going to be or anything else, because what we want to do is keep this totally confidential, and then we set forth, and it does go to court, then we move forward in that particular direction. Now, I'd be happy to answer any questions that any of the council members may have. The city attorney is here to answer those items, as well as the city clerk to discuss regarding closed session items.
Councilmember Kivel, go ahead.
This board has a fiduciary responsibility to the community to try to be as well-informed and strategic as we can be as a group to try to establish the direction that we're hoping to take the city forward in. That's the same with the budgeting kind of thing as it is with the strategy that might end up being included into a lawsuit like this. So it was really pretty irresponsible to not actually step into the ring and have that conversation so that we could all be on the same page. You might not end up ultimately agreeing with the final outcome of the majority, but nonetheless, that's the place to air whatever your views are in the closed session. So the argument that I had heard had been that they're really interested in transparency. Well, we've never been untransparent ever, but the idea that we would end up giving our strategy to a litigant is not a very good idea, clearly. So, and we do have that responsibility to this community to work as hard as we can to put the city in the best position that it can be to be able to complete or carry on with the good deeds that we're hoping to accomplish. So, thank you.
Councilmember Parisian.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Tim, I have a question for you. Just out of curiosity, if not going into closed session, is there potential for us to say strategy on the record that makes us transparent, but in turn also costs taxpayer dollars because we put that strategy out on the record for everyone to know? Does that make sense? So does it cost our taxpayers in the end?
Yeah, I think it's a speculative question. Clearly, if you have pending litigation and you were interested in resolving it through a settlement and it was a monetary settlement, clearly giving direction to whoever's in charge of the negotiations by setting a limit in an open meeting would be against your interest. It would reveal exactly what your negotiating and settlement strategy is.
Can you pull that mic down? You're very difficult to hear on videos typically.
I have a
so-
little bit of a cold too, I'm sorry.
Okay.
I think there's also a concern regarding pending litigation with trial strategy. If you reveal your legal position, that ultimately could, I think it may be unclear when that becomes apparent, but it clearly could have a financial effect on any community that were to reveal that kind of information.
Thank you.
One more now. In the event that there was a change of heart by the opposing position, we could still end up going into closed session.
Yes, there could be at various times of whether this litigation or other litigation that attorney may issue a letter and, discuss and request to go into closed session. And, council can decide at that time whether to go into closed session. If, they decide not to, then I want everybody to fully understand that I would be the responsible one and would be discussing with the attorney how we would potentially proceed. If a decision is made where we have to have discussion and just as I mentioned before, even going into closed session, the discussion does take place, but an actual decision by council or vote has to occur in open session. That still would potentially happen. But I would not want to discuss a strategy in open session, and I would try to keep that close to the vest.
Well, I would like to see us have another swing at this at the next meeting. Maybe one of the 3 dissenting votes will have a change of heart, and we could actually have this information exchange.
Well, I don't know. I don't know if that would be. I guess I have to talk that over with attorney or the clerk regarding a vote regarding the same item. But if there is some sort of change or something that we need to have that happen, then I would definitely bring that before council.
No, if one of the dissenting members has a change of heart, we can have that vote.
Tim, you want to comment on that?
I'm not sure I'm understanding. I think a request to go into closed session could be characterized as a different request where there's no concern about, you just take a straight vote under roll call, and if you meet the requirements, you can go into closed session. I don't know that, there may be a concern about whether it is reconsideration or another vote on the same type of action, but I think there's ways to avoid that.
Okay. I just want to make sure we talk about that, that's all. It's important.
Which, just for informational purposes, the latter could be proper. It just seems to be less clear and a little more messy. So having a new request and taking a separate vote, I think would be appropriate under the right circumstances.
I just think since 4 of the 7 of us had decided to be responsible and do what our job is, it'd be nice to have another crack at it.
All right, well, this was just a discussion piece. Does anyone have any other questions for Paul or the city attorney? Councilmember Kurtzwell, go ahead.
I think what we have here is not anything that's any different in any other municipalities, that you just have an ideological difference as to the level of governmental transparency. Julian Assange has a very radical approach to governmental transparency, and other individuals have a approach that governmental transparency is very minimal. And just because you have ideological differences on this council doesn't mean that anybody hates anybody up here or doesn't like anybody up here. All it means is that different ideological differences sometimes bring you to a different outcome than maybe what you anticipated or what you planned. And that's the challenge of management, is to be able to build a consensus on an issue that for whatever reason you find important. because not everybody reads the facts the same way you do. Not everybody sees the urgency that you do. Not everybody sees the necessity that you do. And so you can't banish people and belittle them because their opinion is different than yours. So I think that's the first thing, is that, once again, we need to understand we have 7 opinions up here. We have 7 people that represent individuals or constituencies out there in the community. And I will tell you that this community in the past has not been pleased with the number of closed meetings that this city has had in the past. Now, they're not as frequent as they used to be, so that's a good thing. But there is always that level of mistrust of a public entity when you have a city council meeting and every meeting it's a closed meeting. Because you have individuals out there that clearly want to be part of the deliberative process, that want to be part of the policy making, that want to be informed as to how their elected officials are voting, and they want to hold those officials accountable for how they're voting. And you can't do that if all your deliberation is happening in a closed meeting. So that's my first argument. My second argument is that I think we need to understand the Open Meetings Act. And we need to understand what the drafters meant when they drafted the Open Meetings Act. The Open Meetings Act is permissive. It says a public body may go into a closed session. It doesn't say that you shall go into a closed session. So the legislatures, when they drafted the Open Meetings Act, said, we are not going to force these closed meetings on the governing bodies. So they drafted that language and said, you may. You are not entitled to go into a closed meeting because you have a pending lawsuit. You are not entitled to go into a closed meeting because you don't want your personnel review going out on a public record. You are not entitled to it. It is permissive. That is the Open Meetings Act. And people who fight governmental transparency have a problem with the very wording of the statute itself. It's permissive. And then what the legislature did is they said, we are not going to force these closed meetings down people's throat by giving just the majority an opportunity to go into a closed meeting. That's not how this is drafted. The legislature said, you want to go into a closed meeting, you need more than just the majority. You need a supermajority. So the legislature was very wise and said, we are not going to allow a simple majority of a governing body to continue to hold the public hostage and say, you gain no information in these closed meetings, none. You are going to have to find a way to work with one other person to get you that other vote. You have to read the statute. It's not mandatory, it's permissive, and it requires a supermajority. Next, as to why I did not vote, I felt I was incredibly responsible to the people that I represent, which is a lot of people in the city, is this particular request was not ripe for a closed meeting. It wasn't ripe. City hadn't even been before the judge yet. City hasn't even answered the complaint yet. There was no offer on the table. There's nothing. So I did not feel that the file was ripe enough to even go into deliberation. I did not want to waste a closed meeting talking about stuff that hadn't even occurred. Discovery's not even completed on this. So why are you going into a closed meeting? Who's panicking here? Let the process go. Get an opportunity in front of the judge. Every judge is going to tell you to settle because no judge wants to be reversed on appeal. But sit back and let the process roll a little bit. That's why I voted the way I did. Wasn't ripe for a vote for a closed session. Does that mean I will always vote no? No. The facts change. We move forward on the case. We have a settlement proposal. Maybe a discussion with the judge at a settlement conference. Let's see what our hearing is going to turn out to be in September. Let's see how that goes. Once the facts change, my vote will change. But it just wasn't ripe at that time. So I just want to make sure that that gets out there. Next, I want to also bring to council's attention, which I don't know if they are aware, but Lyon Township, in an unpublished opinion of the Michigan Court of Appeals that was issued on March 27th of 2018, it's an excellent, excellent opinion on closed meetings. Why am I bringing that up? Because apparently Lyon Township, when it got remanded back down to the circuit court, got hit with a bunch of attorney fees in the tens of thousands of dollars because of violations, technical violations of the Open Meeting Act with respect to a closed meeting. Lyon Township is being sued again on their second lawsuit. I will be downloading that off of Court Explorer and take a look at what that one is all about. So you have this litigation out there that is percolating in this community, and including Lyon Township in this, regarding these closed meetings that needs to be settled by the courts. Let's find out what municipalities are doing wrong on these closed meetings. So actually, the responsible person here, contrary to the gentleman who spoke last, he was totally incorrect because he didn't have his facts right. In fact, it sounds like he didn't have his facts at all. The responsible person is the individual that's saying, we have sensitive litigation going on about these closed meetings. Why don't we wait a little bit, see how this second lawsuit turns out? Maybe council should read the opinion that was issued on March 27th and understand those rules on the closed meeting. Let's get this case a little bit further in the litigation process, and then let's sit down and have our closed meeting. So given all of that, I just did not see where this was ripe for a closed meeting. It doesn't mean I won't vote for a closed meeting at some time in the future. It just wasn't the right time. But I'm not opposed to closed meetings. I think if there's a personnel matter, I think when I spoke with the city manager, I will vote to go into a closed meeting. I'm not opposed to closed meetings. What I'm opposed to is the frequent use of a closed meeting when there is clearly no, at least from my assessment of the facts, a rightness to go into that meeting and to keep the public out of the debate and the discussion. So those are my comments for now. There is another comment regarding why I will, at least for the time being, vote no to go into a closed meeting, but that has been discussed with the city manager. And I would prefer not to put it on the record. Thank you.
Councilman Richards, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My question is directed at Tim. You've been with us quite a good deal of time, Tim, and we're all for South Lyon here, okay? We're all on the same team. Sometimes we wear different helmets, as I said a long time ago. Your brief that you put together was excellent, well-written. The metaphors that you connected together to flow and transfer thought patterns on the ideas was wonderful, okay? But during the course of the whole matter, you put forth some information that absolutely none of us had ever heard over a period of 2 years. Okay?
Just be careful.
Okay, I know. Okay, all right.
I'm not telling you to stop. I just.
Okay, all right, I'm being careful. We were blindsided, to speak, okay? And I hope we can avoid this in the future, okay? I can't get into specifics or say anything, but I'm just letting you know. We're all on the same team. Okay, thank you.
No problem. Does anyone else have anything for this discussion piece? Okay. Well, thank you. That was informative. We will move on to the budget this evening. Does anyone have anything on the budget? No?
Thank you for asking, Mr. Mayor.
We will move on to the manager's report.
I want to update council. I mentioned within your packet the update regarding you met with representatives of DEQ and Peerless Water last week regarding the well at McCaddy Park. We've been approved for an offset well, which is well number 4. There'll be work done beginning within the next 2 to 4 weeks. It will be a little bit of a messy area out there because we will be drilling a well. We'll try to keep that as contained as we possibly can. We know there's a lot of kids and a lot of activity and a lot of people that are out there on a regular basis. But this is to ensure that our water supply meets for city, commercial, as well as fire flow needs within the community. Our wells are other wells are in operation. We just need to ensure that we have enough backup for full operation, not only for the city as well as for the businesses. And I'll be updating you as we move that process along. I want to also update you regarding the bookkeeper position, which was Patricia's old position. We are going to be conducting interviews as early as next week, and I will update you on that process as we move along. I set up a meeting with DTE Energy regarding the discussion about converting some of our mercury vapor lights to LED and the potential cost savings, as well as discussion of initial cost and what the potential payback period is going to be. That's something that we've worked on in the past in other communities, and it will save the city a lot of money within the long run. I did mention also regarding a donation form and policy that I'm working on with the for developing for the city, so the city can take donations, the city can accept items, what are the means at which we accept them, as well as dollar amounts. And I'd be happy to answer any questions that any council members may have regarding that or any other item.
Thanks, Paul.
No, I don't have a question.
At this time, we will open the floor for public comment. Please remember to state your name and address.
Yes, Ryan Lair, 716 Grand Court. Mr. Mayor, at the last meeting, you kind of lost your cool and went after the 3 council members. And at your public comment, or your council comment, I would like you to apologize to the 3 of them for asking them why they voted the way they did. They have a right to vote how they vote. You don't have to like their vote. Nobody has to like their vote, but it's their vote. They looked at the council packets, they reviewed their information, and they made a decision the way they did. For the people down here on the 3 that are sitting or make comments that, you know, the 3 aren't doing their job or whatever, that's not true. They are doing their job. And you can shake your head all you want, but they are, and they can vote how they choose to. That's why we are America. And their vote stands. And at no time will I ask the 3 of them to change their votes, because we should honor their votes as respected. Yeah, I know, you can sit there and laugh, Mr. Kibble.
Thank you, Mr. Lair. We will close public comment for this evening and move on to council comments. Councilmember Kennedy, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First off, tonight, I'd like to mention that the Salem South Lyon District Library, in conjunction with the Four Seasons Garden Club of South Lyon, will be holding their Nature Fest on Saturday, July 13th, from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. at the library. Attendees will enjoy music in the gardens by the MC Squared Singers, listen to a variety of guest speakers talk about birds and plants, and partake in some garden discovery activities. So make a point to mark your calendars and come to the library to enjoy this event. And again, I want to congratulate our County Commissioner, Phil Weipert, who just completed his term as chair of SEMCOG, the Southeast Michigan Council of Governments for the 2018-2019 year, and who now becomes the immediate past chair for the 2019-2020 year. So congratulations on a job well done, Phil. And again, I want to thank Phil and our city manager, Paul Zelnick, for their efforts to get the $15,000 from Oakland County for our city to use for the local road repairs. Thanks for your help in bringing some funds back to South Lyon from Oakland County. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember Kennedy. Councilmember Richards.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd just like to make a few notifications here. As you know, the bike path from McMunn to Dixboro has been closed. okay? And there's more to it than really meets the eye. Now, at first, it was Consumers Power. Well, at this point in time, Consumers Powers, which manages the Panhandle pipeline that goes directly and only to the tube mill. Okay, they have completed their part of the work, and now it's passed on to DTE. And I don't know, they're moving along, but I don't know if they're close to being finished on their part. And Mr. Zelnak is monitoring this for us, and hopefully the city can come out ahead on this deal very nicely, especially in our future negotiations with the tube mill, okay, and improving a section of the bike path in the long run, which we haven't been able to do. Anyway, I wanted to mention that, first item. Okay, number two, I decided to take it upon myself to go over to the DPW yard and take a look at the roof job that we approved, and ask some of the fellas what they thought and so on and so forth. And I talked to one of the fellas that knows me quite well, and he said they were here a week and a half ago, 10 days ago, and they did the first phase. And they did it all in one day, and they're letting it cure for 30, 60 days, something to that effect, okay? And then they're going to come back probably end of this week or maybe into next week and do the final spray application over what they've imprinted on our roof. And so the job is in progress. Our money was hopefully well spent, and that's all you can say, okay? And hope for the best in this whole deal for us for years to come. Number three item, just the general public out there, there's no way they can know everything that's been going on over the last more than a month here. There's our offices and our executive branch, all the division heads have been swamped with things coming in. Chief Vogel's men, I was at the fire department, and his helpers up there informed me that, which he mentioned in the previous council meeting, we've had 100 more calls till this time this year than we did last year at this time through the course of the year. And in a way, that's indicative of the increase in activity in all our other departments too. And I'm so glad we got some new police officers. Basically, the office in the month of July here is always a little bit swamped because taxes and water bills go out the same time, whereas that doesn't happen any other time of the year. They both go out the same time. And the dog licenses, stragglers come in also. But we got new personnel coming in, and it's been a strain, okay? We've got Patricia's taken over Lori's job, and now we have our new Mr. Varney coming in, and I'm so glad to meet you and see you and introduce yourself to the council. We look forward to, and I look forward to, working with you periodically from time to time as we get to know each other. Anyway, that's enough for today, okay? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilmember Richards. Councilmember Kurtzwell.
Oh, thank you. I just want to let everybody know I had a great time at the June Lake Street Cruise-In and saw for the first time a McLaren car. Didn't know what it was. Incredible vehicle. So I would like to encourage everybody to go to these Lake Street Cruise-Ins because you are going to see cars that you will never, ever see in your lifetime. I'll never see another car like this again, but absolutely incredible. I'd also like to announce the sponsors for the Lake Street Cruise-In and the Motorfest. The next set of sponsors are Creations out of Howell, Shaw & Klein HVAC LLC from Farmington, Sellers Buick GMC, Farmington Hills, Shadow Rods from Saginaw, South Lyon Collision, one of my favorites. Gary sees me a lot. South Lyon Hotel, Corey and Company. Thank you so much, all of you, for supporting the Lake Street Cruise-In. Next, I would like to thank Aubrey's for donating 20% of a bill for food when people went up there, and this was on June 23rd. 20% of the bill was donated by Aubrey's. It went to the Kapurkin Health Clinic and that particular clinic helps people in the community to receive some basic medical services who otherwise would not be able to receive it. So thank you, Aubrey's, for doing a very good thing for people in our community. Next, Councilman Richards did bring this up. I did send a message to an individual that I know that is pretty close with Kathy Crawford. Kathy Crawford, as everybody knows, is our state representative. She has a tremendous background with respect to senior citizens. And the message is maybe Kathy could assist on providing some alternatives, some solutions to how we can help our senior community with respect to emergency services, and that would include maybe finding a grant, whether it's federal or whatever, and maybe with state matching funds to provide an alternate transportation for those seniors that are having medical issues and want to see doctors. So that message is off to Kathy, and I know she's busy right now, but hopefully in the next couple weeks I'll hear back and we'll have something from her. Next, when I was at the Lake Street Cruising, I met this incredible individual that lives in the downtown area. She's the #1 cheerleader. What a great person, great sense of humor. She's very feisty, which is why I liked her. And she had nothing but positive things to say about South Lyon and its downtown. So I have her autograph. She told me I'm the only one in the city that has her autograph. Her name is Jean Walrich. So Jean, I told you I was going to give you a big thank you for all the positive comments that you are making with respect to the downtown and the city of South Lyon. It was a pleasure meeting you, and I hope to see you again at the next Lake Street Cruising. Next, I would just really like to thank Jeff over at Third Monk Brewery for his sponsoring of the poetry reading celebrating the 50th anniversary of the Moonwalk. I think this is just going to be a great event over there. You know, Jeff's got a great crowd that goes over there. I enjoy it. He's got a very, very interesting group of individuals that follow him, and I bet that brew that he's making special for this event is going to be great. Last, I would like to include in the minutes, if I could, it's a memorandum which came out January 21st, 2009, and it was by Barack Obama. And it's just a very good discussion of transparency and open government. I didn't always agree with the president when he was in office, but you know what? I got through it. Nothing happened to me living 8 years with Barack Obama. Didn't have a nervous breakdown. He had some good ideas, and I think this is a very, very good discussion about transparency and open government, and I just thought people might want to read it. So I'd like to include this with the minutes tonight. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councilmember Walton?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I want to welcome our new officers. That's wonderful that we have added some great members to our team. They're going to love it here in our community. Welcome to our new DPW director. We'll look forward to meeting with you as soon as possible. And thank you for getting the leaky water faucet fixed already over in McCady Park. That was a concern from some of our residents, and so that was like your first week, so thank you. The other thing I want to say is thank you to Witch's Hat, who's always looking out for our community. They are one of the residents that brought the leaky faucet to us, and they are also talking about getting some extra crosswalks added to our city just because of their concern for our residents. So thank you for always looking out. The other thing is if you are having troubles and you need some help finding resources in the community, you can hit 211 on your phone, and you will be sent to a hotline that will help you. Not only do we have Active Faith here as a nonprofit in South Lyon, but this will get you to a hotline of all the local nonprofits for your area. So just if anyone out there is having some trouble and they need some assistance, just go ahead and hit 211 on your phone and get that listing. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Walton. Councilmember Parisian.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thanks for listening, and thank you for those who are attending. You guys have a great night.
Councilmember Kivril.
I just wanted to say it's really nice seeing the flowers downtown being watered. They're looking really, really good, as is the downtown area. I mean, you can really see the vitality down there. We're really building some good energy, and I'm really looking forward to the next stuff coming up. I was asked to count the cars at the last auto show, and as it turns out, there was 273 rides down there. So our downtown small as it is, still hosted one heck of a big batch of cars that were spectacular from one end of the town to the other. So I was grateful to be able to help them out, and hopefully that'll happen some more in the future. I happened to be up north over the 4th of July, but my understanding was that everything was fine down here, and there was an awful lot of good things going on too. So I hope everybody had a nice 4th, and that's all I have.
Thank you, Councilmember Kibble. I got a couple reminders for everybody. We have the American Legion Golf Outing, July 27th, out at Rolling Meadows. It's for a great cause. Hopefully we're going to have a great day. Again, we're going to do the doubleheader and do the car show afterwards, so rest up. Just a reminder, if you haven't had the opportunity to run around, and this is not a great shot, but and check out our space photos for the 50th anniversary of the moon landing. They are awesome, and there's a little checklist now that you can go check around and stop in town and do some exploring and find a favorite. I know I do. In regards to Mr. Lair's comments, I can assure you I've went over the tape, and while we are all entitled to our own opinion, I would ask you to check the file. I know you tape your own. I've only seen the city's file, but I was not calling out anyone's vote deliberately or calling it anything. I asked if they wanted an opportunity to explain it to the community. My frustration with that whole issue could have been alleviated with the discussion before the vote that we got to have today. So I hope that takes care of that. So with that being said, I will look for a motion to adjourn this evening.
Move to adjourn?
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.